Okay, so everybody, this is just a quick rapid fire. It's not really a panel discussion. It's really just for you to put some questions to our mayors who've already been on. Patricia from Cape Town, Isa from Kigali, Parks, of course, from Johannesburg, and Khalifa Sal from Dakar. And Natalie is there to translate. So let's just very quickly see who hasn't asked any questions, who wants to ask some questions to our mayors. Can I see some hands under the microphones? Ladies with the microphone, give that microphone to that lady. Could I have another microphone there, please? And can I see another hand? Any other hands? Okay, yeah, there's another one there. Could you give this lady a microphone? We'll take 3 questions, one after the other. Fire away, thank you.
Hi, my name is Karabo Murule.
Hold it close.
My name is Karabo Murule. I'm from South Africa. I think it was really innovative in terms of an experiment which the city of Johannesburg ran in October, where they actually closed down a CBD in Sandton, which is, you know, the economic powerhouse of Johannesburg. And what they did there was that they extended things like the sidewalks, etc., to try and encourage mobility and to reduce congestion in the area. And I'm wondering if there's been consideration around expanding that experiment to other areas, in particular because the report, for example, states the number of people who are pedestrians and using walking as transport, and in particular the risks associated with that with pedestrian deaths, but also that actually in terms of insured lives in South Africa, the highest rate of non-natural death is from motor vehicle accidents. I'm wondering whether more sidewalks are being considered in various parts of the cities, and I guess it doesn't necessarily apply to Johannesburg only. Even when you go to residential areas, be it in Nairobi and Kinshasa, you don't see sidewalks which enable people to move. Is that a consideration?
So what's your question?
Are the cities considering making sure that there's pedestrian sidewalks to encourage mobility?
Okay, thank you. Sidewalks for pedestrians in cities. Fine, next one.
Okay, my name is Adedoyin Adedeji from Nigeria. I'm a participant of the Yale West Africa and the President Obama's initiative. I actually just want to ask about change of government. We've been having a lot of discussions about urbanization and how best we can help African cities grow. But I think one thing I still don't get is why change of government, how does it affect urbanization? In the sense that we come up with a lot of policies, a lot of agendas, but over a period of time, a new government comes in and they have a new set of agenda, not minding what the past government have spent, not minding the plans they have put in place. So I just want to ask, is it possible, probably as a foundation or as individuals here, is there any possibility of us creating a framework for countries across Africa such that even if there's a change of government, we at least will have some form of continuity in terms of project execution towards urbanization of African cities? Thank you.
Got it. Next one. There was somebody with a microphone, then I'll come to you, Nairi. Thank you, Nairi. Yep.
Hello.
Hold it close.
Hi, I'm Aloiba David West. Something I've missed throughout today is the talk on the importance of the private sector within developing cities. I think one thing that's quite clear certainly in the 21st century is that the role of public-private partnership is becoming increasingly essential to the development of nations and then towns. What I'd like to ask the mayors is what conversations are being had with the corporates? What conversations or what sort of language is used? Largely because, as we know, corporations are not naturally altruistic, irrespective of what their socially responsible investment policies are or corporate social responsibilities are. And essentially, for their shareholders, for their constituencies, the important thing is the bottom line. And what sort of conversations are being had with corporations to ensure that investing in in infrastructure projects such as power, water, etc., is actually delivered to the companies and to their bottom line in terms of conversations of return of investment, margin expansion, earnings expansion, etc.
Thank you very much. Got it. Okay, mayors, you're all going to answer those 3 questions. Let me start with you, Patricia, from Cape Town. The first question was sidewalks for pedestrians and then continuity of policy. How can you guarantee that? And then what kind of conversations are you having in Cape Town with the private sector? So if you could answer them in that order, please.
Once again, in terms of redressing the imbalances of the past, many of our black and colored areas were built without pavements. So in redressing the imbalances, we're building new pavements. We're also lifting the old concrete roads and just putting proper roads in. But then we're also building special bicycle lanes, and we are making sure that we redesign our city. You know, cities is being designed for cars, not for people. And so we are trying to claim some of that space back and make it possible for pedestrians also to use it. So sometimes we will close main roads for a day or for 2 days and just allow people to come out and they do figure skating there, they do all kinds of activities that they won't normally do in a road, they will do that. So the other issue, the public-private partnerships, you have to engage continuously with the private sector to understand where their needs are and where they want to develop. And then you have to then come to an agreement that in terms of rolling out of bulk infrastructure, you will roll it out where they intend to have a development. We also ask for a development facilitation fee, and with that money, we then build a new infrastructure. But that conversation is ongoing about the specific needs of the various sectors. And also from the city side, our engagement is to free up city land that we don't use anymore, or we not intend using, and free that up and let that into the market. So it's ongoing. Like I said in the previous session, I've got a special trade and investment office in my office, and that's the first port of call.
Continuity of policy, how do you guarantee that? Now, I know you're from the DA, the Democratic, no, you set up your own party, but you're not ANC, is what I mean. Mandela described you as his favourite opposition politician, didn't he?
Well, we all love Tata Madiba, and I think that we've got a duty and responsibility to continue to build where he left off.
All right, but the fact is this, you've got an ANC government in power, there you are trying to do your own thing in Cape Town. Are you finding a bit of a struggle to have the policies that you want continued?
No, the room is there to have your policies. Of course, you've got a constitutional mandate, and the Constitution does say that local government has got a responsibility for economic development and social development. So within that framework, you can actually do development. We do have to rely on some of our funding from national government. We're not allowed to collect taxes within our city, although we contribute about 19 billion rand to taxes, and what finally come back to us is less than 1 billion. So it's always that healthy tension about resources.
But you're a prosperous province, relatively speaking, aren't you? Wider province.
Well, right now it's the only province where the economy is growing. In the city of Cape Town, we're receiving investments all the time. It's because we, from government side, had made sure that we had provided the infrastructure necessary for the economy to grow in our city.
All right. And it's about 10 million, is it, Cape Town? How many?
No, we're just under 5 million.
Oh, 5 million. 5 million in Cape Town. I'll come to you now, Isa from Kigali. How many are you in Kigali? You're a million-wise?
Today I think it's around 1.2.
Just under 2.
When I was mayor, it was 1.1. I'm 5 years away from
I think it's a bit, it's about 1.5 million, isn't it? A bit more now. Anyway, okay, so I've been to Kigali. It's a very pleasant place to walk. You've built lots of sidewalks. It's an important part of when you're mayor to have pedestrian, bits, pavements.
It certainly was, Zainabu, and I want to say that I think that's one beautiful part of our cities that we miss out on. Many times when we talk about mobility from our African context, we think about vehicles, but I think it's very important that we also think about the healthy part of walking in a city and taking care of those who are walking as much as we're taking care of those who are using vehicles. But just to make it practical, now as I look back 4 years that I've been in UN Habitat, what can cities do to acquire sufficient space to have roads for the vehicles and cycling and roads? The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ethiopia, talked about expropriation, which is what we're used to. But we have a tool that is even much more enabling, which we call in UN Habitat. We have got a partnership with World Bank and others, which we call land readjustment, which has been used elsewhere in the West, in which case you negotiate with the trust that you have with the people. You negotiate that they give land to the public sector for infrastructure investment without you paying, but you pay back the ability to rise high, to build high. So the more you invest in the public infrastructure space, the more their value for their land.
You build high and you have these nice pedestrian
Exactly.
ways.
So
Because
people-
at the moment, in a lot of cities in Africa, our four-wheeled friends are beating us, aren't they?
Exactly.
You see a lot of road being taken up by the
Exactly, and certainly if we don't get this public space now, in the next 20 years it will be practically impossible. So we need to really relate it to the competitiveness and resilience of a city to do business from that
All right, and
perspective.
how do you
And the
guarantee-
tools to do that. There's really tools to do that, especially when you've got good governance, and what you're doing is to everybody, and because you are ensuring, what I liked about it is that you're ensuring that the existing citizens in the city are going to benefit from that development. Because when you evict people, when you pay them, where do they go? Maybe they won't be able to get access to that prime part of the city. But if you were able to negotiate with them so that they can stay and partner with other investors and build in the remaining part, then you access the public space in order to get investment.
So I'm not making
It's a dual thing.
I'm not making a flippant point, but if you go to an African city, the more pavement and pedestrianised areas you are, it's a good sign, a good barometer of good governance in that city.
Certainly, it's a good barometer of governance. It's healthy, it's sustainable, and in the long run, the main difference between New York and so many other cities is because 200 years ago, they defined what would be public space. To date, they only changed the private, but that still stays.
Yeah.
So if we really want to have a healthy, connected, vibrant city, that's like a must.
All right,
Secondly,
good. Second, continuity of policy.
on
How
the
do you guarantee-
continuity of policy, what I can say are two things. We need to build institutions that last longer than us. I'll just give an example. When we are dealing with doing business that I talked about earlier on and establishing ways of supporting investors to be able to access construction permits and services from us on time, we established a one-stop center which made us accountable, and we established a private sector Kigali City Investors Forum. To date, that exists. So if we can, when we talk about government, we should talk about governance, in which case we need to build networks that connect the public government to corporate governance to civil society. We can't all change at the same time, but when we have got this framework that holds us to account and that communicates to the rest of the public, then that will stand the test of time.
and
Secondly,
Yep, sorry.
I want just to emphasize this point that now we have a golden opportunity that we must not miss, and that's the SDGs. Goal number 11 is holding all countries accountable to establishing the criteria we're talking about here. What's important is for us to break it down to practical, objective issues, and then roll that out. So because if the mayor and the government indicates, is very clear about what it's going to do because we have got the knowledge and data, then people will come and go, but the systems will stay, and the compass that guides the whole process will certainly stay.
And then your Kigali Investment Forum, you would have had conversations with the private sector. What kind of conversations were you having with them?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Well, when I was mayor, and I'm sure it's still going on, we had that investors forum, which was regular, which was like another parliament, which gave me access to the corporate world, not because there was a crisis, because they had the right to feel valued, to feel cared for, much as the political process was also holding into account. But secondly, I had to go out. I think I had a discussion with the minister, former minister Macedonia, on how mayors and leaders, we go out, I would go out with my local micro, medium entrepreneurs to China, to the US, so they could learn from others and come back and partner. And in the same way, I would invite those from outside, from conferences like
Thank
this.
you very much.
Sorry.
Yeah, do keep your comments as brief as you can, please, because we don't have a huge amount of time. So, Parks,
Well,
about pedestrians. Although I have to say, I'm sorry to say, that some parts of the city you wouldn't want to really just wander around. But we'll come to that perhaps later in all cities because of the worry about crime. But anyway, yeah.
when we implemented the eco-mobility initiative in October this year, we had set ourselves 3 objectives. The first is to create public awareness and debate so that people have a discussion about alternative modes of transport, including the accessibility of your city through cycling and walking, and that becomes an integral part of how you build and support infrastructure in your city. The second was about the reality that areas like Sandton, which is the key commercial center now in our city, it's secondary to our inner city, but it's become the key commercial center, is experiencing high levels of congestion. And how do we reduce congestion? We're not going to build ourselves out of the problem. So we need to address the problem from the demand side. So we need to address issues that ensure that you provide different alternatives to people. And we're currently building a BRT system in Sandton. And when we introduce eco-mobility, it's a precursor to say we will be introducing a BRT system. It will take away part of the road space from the private car. It will increase congestion if you stay in your car. So you might as well start thinking about the alternative options.
Okay.
And the third was the climate change objective. So we set ourselves those three objectives, and we've been able to measure the success of the project.
Okay.
We're quite comfortable that we've laid the basis for us to be able to expand the sort of infrastructure that
All
we've
right, yeah.
invested in.
Okay, it's just the questions, please, that are coming from the floor. That's really what I'm putting to you. And then how do you guarantee in Johannesburg that, you know, a here today, gone tomorrow mayor doesn't lead to, you know, a yo-yoing in policy?
It's through building partnerships. I mean, when we developed our growth and development strategy in 2011, we went through an extensive public consultation and public participation process. We went back to our people in 2013 to assess levels of awareness, and levels of awareness were standing at less than 10%. So reality is that going through publicity, mobilization, and so on does not resolve the problem. You need to get people, institutions involved in the work that you do so that the strategy is ingrained in your city. And that's why we've now been focusing on building partnerships. Some of the programs we're now implementing through the local universities and formed MOUs and partnerships with the universities. Some of the programs that we're working on, I mean, we're working on a program that's trying to get 200,000 young people within 1 year. That's about 25% of the unemployed young people in our city into a funnel of opportunities for jobs, for skills and different opportunities.
Okay, I want to make sure I get more questions from the floor. So unless you just want to answer these three questions, I will ask you, please, with respect to concertina, your answers. And very quickly, just on what kind of conversations you are having with the private sector. That was the question from the young lady there.
Exactly the point.
Do you have
I was actually
similar aims?
concluding on exactly
Please,
the point
thank you.
to say that we've formed partnerships with the private sector because it is the private sector who essentially are the people who would be able to get the young people matched to jobs. They would be able to create the opportunities for these young people. So it is this partnership with the private sector that says we can be able to, working with a non-governmental organization, match the young people to their job potential and or skills that are there in the market and create those sort of matches and linkages. And it is through those sort of partnerships where you've got the private sector as an integral part of what you're doing that you can bring them on board. You can't sit across the table and say, what are you doing, what am I doing? It's about what are we both doing on the same table to resolve the problems that we're dealing with.
Thank you. Khalifa Sal, you understood the questions, I know, but you're going to answer in French. If you could give us your first answer and then Natalie will kindly oblige.
Merci beaucoup. D'abord, je voudrais dire que par rapport aux trois questions, il faut que nous tous nous soyons d'accord que le rôle et la place des villes ont beaucoup évolué. Les villes ne sont plus mues que par des activités sociales. Nous sommes là pour aider les populations, les soutenir, créer les cadres dans lesquels elles vont bien vivre et mieux vivre. Ensuite, nous sommes devenus des villes de développement, c'est-à-dire des villes développeurs. Et ça, c'est important.
Sorry. I just want to say to begin with that the role of cities has much evolved. Cities are now at the heart of setting a life setting for the people. People are at the heart of what cities are doing, and the social policies of cities are very important. But on top of that, cities are also now becoming drivers of development, and this is one of their, I would say, main characteristics now.
Okay, so if you could answer the first question, I'd be grateful because we need to take more questions from the
Okay.
floor. Thank you. So, if you wouldn't mind, thank you. About pedestrians, the need for pedestrianised areas in cities.
Oui. Donc, pour maintenant, j'ai parlé ce matin du cadre de vie. Et ce cadre de vie, il est important. Le problème que nous avons dans les villes africaines, c'est que l'espace public n'est pas que pour les véhicules, il est pour le public. Et le public, ce sont les personnes. C'est ça la première chose sur laquelle nous nous accordons. Maintenant, dans les villes africaines, avec la migration rurale, ces populations transforment tous les espaces publics en lieux de commerce ou en lieux non dédiés.
The problem we have in African cities is that indeed public spaces should be once again for people first, but in fact due to rural migration and to constant moves between suburbs and the center of the city, this public space have become mainly a space for sellers and for drivers, and they are very encumbered.
Oui, ce que je veux dire, c'est que les rues, les places publiques dans beaucoup de villes africaines servent de marché et non des lieux de vie.
In many, even in most African cities, the public places have become marketplaces rather than collective living spaces.
Donc, il faut que nous prenions une volonté de faire une politique d'aménagement urbain où chaque activité est dédiée dans un espace déterminé.
So what's very important is to set in place urban policies whereby each activity would have a specific allocated space, for example, a space for market, a space for driving. But this needs to be done.
Okay.
Et la question de la mobilité interpelle toutes nos villes. Aujourd'hui, vous avez vu, Dakar perd beaucoup en termes de surcoût par rapport à la mobilité urbaine.
Okay. And
The
then if we
ability
could go
to
on to
move-
the second question after this, please. Thank you.
The ability to move is probably now the key issues in our African cities.
Maintenant, pour les villes de développement, parce que comme j'ai dit, les villes maintenant font du développement. À ce niveau se posent deux problèmes. Nous avons besoin d'accéder à des financements dédiés parce que beaucoup de villes vivent de recettes locales, les taxes, les impôts. Ce n'est plus suffisant pour faire des investissements. Nous devons accéder à des financements adaptés.
Now, if we go a bit further on cities for development, African cities do need specific financial means that they don't have for the time being. Local taxes are not enough, and we must be able to invent, to find new financial means that would allow us to develop in a better way.
Parce que pour les investissements non immédiatement rentables, comme les routes, l'éclairage public, les écoles, les dispensaires, nous devons accéder à des crédits qui nous permettent de les construire et à les rembourser dans des conditions plus souples.
For these specific investments that are not immediately rentable, how do you say rentable?
Non immédiatement rentables.
Yeah, I'm
Voilà.
looking for rentable. That, I mean,
Profit, return.
Non,
Yeah.
non
No
immédiatement
no
profitable.
immediate return. We need to access to specific financial tools that enable us to finance infrastructures such as roads, health, education.
Okay.
Et maintenant, nous avons des investissements rentables pour lesquels nous faisons par des PPP avec les secteurs privés pour construire des infrastructures qui servent aussi à des activités aux populations.
But we also have immediate return investment that we are able to do in private-public partnerships systems that we do use.
Et de manière générale, nous devons faire en sorte que nos villes soient sûres, soient propres, soient bien tenues pour que les investisseurs privés aient envie de venir investir et gagner de l'argent dans nos territoires.
We need to have safe, secure and sustainable city in order to upgrade the brand of our cities so that private investors are willing to come and invest in our cities.
Okay, so that's the kind of, thank you very much, indication of the kind of things that you want in your conversation with the private sector. Thank you very much indeed. So one to Nairi, could you give a couple of microphones to these two here, and then probably and one there, and then I'll have to call it a day. One there, one there, one there, but Nairi first. Microphone, could you give them to the gentleman there? Unless you want to ask a question, I would highly recommend you do that. And then after you've finished, if you pass it to the man behind you. So you've got one. Nairi,
Right,
thank
so
you.
it's been a long day, and we've been dazzled with a lot of expertise and practitioner experience. So I've been sitting thinking, what is it that the experts seem genuinely to disagree on, and what does that mean for people who are trying to lead cities, the mayors in front of us? The first one is on, is growing your city a really important way to lift people out of poverty in your country? Paul Collier said, yes, it is. President Adesina said, no, it's not. It's rural development that's going to do that. So I'm just interested, do you see it? Do you see growing your city as the way out of poverty? I think the second big thing that I've heard the experts really quite strongly disagree on is, should you have a master plan, a national or a citywide strategy for developing your city? Because that will give a clear framework for private investment and clear commonly owned public spaces and such like. Or are you more of the view that it should be bottom up? Participatory budgeting, local communities working out what they want, working with the informal dwellings, the informal sector, working with the grain. Because we've heard both views, but they're very different approaches. So which approach are you taking in your city? And the third is just what's...
Oh my God, Nairi.
No.
Three.
Let's
take it as a
things
comment.
I think people
Your third
disagreed on. And the third is, what's the biggest threat to your city? Is it climate change? Is it a failure of leadership? Presumably not, if you're the mayors. Is it a failure to embrace urbanization to its fullest?
Can we take that last one as a comment, and we'll take your first two as a question? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes?
I'll be brief. I want to make a comment on the political context in which mayors function. History has taught us that many successful mayors, from Brazil, from Seoul, from anywhere, go on to become presidents. Does that help them, or do they fear being too successful? So is that an impediment for them as mayors?
Okay, thank you. We'll keep that one as the very last question. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Hello. My question is simple. I would like to know the role technology is playing in the development of our cities. I tend to read a lot of technology type material, and I see how countries like Spain and Oslo have been developed in a non-standard way, a different type of development, okay, so what I'm trying to say is in technology, what makes the web works, for instance, is a set of standards that everyone has to understand and implement whatever it is you're creating. So I want to know, because I strongly feel that if African countries can develop a cohesive set of city development standards, I think that will go a long way.
Okay.
Because we won't have to replan when we are building Bamako, replan when we are building Cotonou. There's just a cohesive standard that everyone, agree to. So I want to know, is there anything like that right now?
What a sort of cohesive approach?
Set of standards, like city development standards.
Yeah, okay, got it. Thanks. It's
board.
just you threw us off the scent when you talked about technology at the beginning. Yeah, okay. And so that's it there. Two more, and that's it. Yep.
Candida Borges from International Crisis Group Dakar. I have one question to Mayor Khalifa Sall. Monsieur Sall, je vois que vous menez activement une politique de désencombrement des rues à Dakar et je vous en félicite. Juste une question, avez-vous prévu d'impliquer les marchands ambulants qui viennent la plupart du temps du milieu rural dans la politique d'agriculture, d'autosuffisance alimentaire de M. Macky Sall, notamment en menant une politique d'accompagnement afin de les pousser de retourner à l'agriculture, ce qui permettra au gouvernement sénégalais de faire d'une pierre deux coups, c'est-à-dire de désencombrer Dakar et de développer le milieu rural. Merci.
Just so that, for those of us who are a bit linguistically challenged, just give us the gist of that in English. Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, you can't. Okay, Natalie, if you just give us a quick idea of what the young lady said, and then Khalifa Sal, you can answer that one, please, briefly.
Yeah,
Was there a gentleman as well? Is your question brief or long? Please, brief, that's it. I'm in the business for brief.
Thank you very much. Namdi Obasi, International Crisis Group. I assume that an important element of development and management of cities is having very strong institutions. And the institutions have to be capable, they have to be credible, and they have to be durable. Well, I'm just interested in knowing from your city experiences what we could learn about building institutions, municipal management institutions that are credible, that are capable, and that are durable. I guess the durability also ties in with the earlier question about policy continuity, because if you have institutions that are durable, then they'll probably be able to drive policies beyond the lifetime of a single administration. And so you probably will have better policy continuity. Thank you.
If that's your brief, I'd hate to see you along. Listen, they kind of already dealt with institutions a bit, so we may just take that as a reinforcement of the need for strong institutions, because you've talked a lot about that, Parks. Natalie, the French point, and then Mayor Sal, you could address that.
It was coming back to the question of circulation in the streets, and the question first commanded the ability of Khalifa Sall to have tried to solve this problem, but was asking whether there was some policy that he was leading that would sort of push back the street vendors to go back to rural areas, which would allow to kill two birds with a stone, ease the traffic within the city streets, and push people back to go to agriculture.
Okay, very specific question there for Dakar. Yeah.
Maintenant, je vais répondre rapidement aux 4 questions que j'ai notées, 30 secondes par question.
He wants to answer immediately to the 4 questions.
Je voudrais d'abord
Briefly, brièvement, s'il vous plaît, parce que nous
très
avons pas
brièvement,
beaucoup de temps.
pour dire que la pauvreté nationale est maintenant dans les villes. C'est là, dans les villes qu'il y a la pauvreté et que les réponses à donner sont à ce niveau. 1. Deuxièmement, toutes les villes africaines aujourd'hui sont dotées de plans stratégiques. Et cette planification, depuis le processus de Porto Alegre, est un processus participatif. Ce sont les populations qui sont impliquées dans l'élaboration des plans pour déterminer la vision, la stratégie, les objectifs et les modalités de mise en œuvre. Ensuite, troisièmement, le développement de nos villes est marqué par une grande intrusion du secteur informel. Et ce secteur informel devra être impliqué dans les politiques de formalisation de leurs activités. Et de ce point de vue, ça nécessite des actions vigoureuses de dialogue, de discussion, mais aussi de construction de cadres où il pourra s'impliquer. Quatrièmement, dire que les changements climatiques sont la conséquence du mauvais établissement humain. C'est-à-dire que tous ces migrants qui viennent dans nos villes sans qu'on ne les ait prévus posent des problèmes de logement, de circulation et d'encombrement. Et cela impacte bien sûr sur les changements climatiques et qu'à Dakar, notre principal problème, c'est l'érosion côtière. Enfin, dire qu'il ne peut pas, les villes sont des villes, il n'y a pas de standards et de codes pour les villes africaines et des standards pour les villes européennes. Pour être une ville, il y a des normes, des codes qu'il faut respecter, sinon il y aurait une ville tropicale et une ville tempérée, ce qui n'est pas normal. Et enfin, pour répondre à la question de Madame, les ambulants viennent du monde rural, l'État et la ville se sont accordés. Nous leur créons des conditions pour qu'ils puissent, pour ceux qui le veulent, mener leurs activités dans la ville. Les autres, l'État encourage une politique de retour dans leur village d'origine. Je vous remercie.
Merci, thank you. Natalie, thank you.
Je n'ai pas été trop vite?
Ah non, ça va.
Bon.
So point one, poverty is now in the city. So it's really a key question to be solved. It's a key challenge. And indeed, it will be city policies which is going to solve this challenge. Point two, all cities now have a master plan. And since Porto Alegre, this process is a participative process that does involve all communities. And it's a process that works. Point three, city development is characterized today by a growing place of the informal sector. It's absolutely crucial to involve the informal sector. This needs dialogue, processes. It will be difficult, but it has to be done. Point three, I'm not sure if I'm completely saying what you said. Climate change has a direct link or is worsened. Climate change impact is worsened by the refugees or internal displacement influx of people who worsen or gives the highest, strongest consequences to this climate change. If you know that Dakar is going to be strongly impacted by coastal erosion, it means that space is going to be smaller and we don't have the capacity to accommodate all these refugees. Point five, cities are cities all over the world. There is no specificities of African cities. There is no model for African cities and model for European cities. It's a model that needs to fit cities, and that's all.
Thank you. Thank you. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Sal. Thank you very much indeed for your interventions there. We're very grateful to you. So just very quickly now, remaining mayors, just a minute for each answer, really. Patricia, we had the point from Nairi Woods there about, you know, develop the cities, that's the future, Paul Collier's argument, and then Adeshina's point about, no, don't forget the rural areas. Or a lot of people said, actually, you've got to pursue both in tandem. It's not an either or. So your view briefly on that point, please, Nairi.
I also agree that it's not an either or situation, but it's both. Because there are reasons why people are moving from the rural areas to the city. And therefore, you need to look not only at rural development, but also how do we support the cities that is receiving all of the people coming from the rural area. But in terms of getting people out of the poverty trap, in South Africa, it is the responsibility of all three spheres of government to work together. But I will agree with you that to get people out of poverty is to grow the economy and to grow the informal sector economy, and also make sure that people have the necessary skills to participate in the economy, and that will finally get people out of the poverty.
And that was
trap.
the bottoms-up point that Nairi was making.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we had the young man asking whether there's a kind of universal, one-size-fits-all standard approach to take it off the shelf. This is the DIY kit for a good city in Africa.
No, not at all. In terms of the South African cities, we are obliged by legislation to consult. We have to do public participation. We do an integrated development plan every 5 years. And in the case of the city of Cape Town, we've consulted with more than 2 million people. And then, of course, there's the consultation in terms of projects where you also have to consult with the communities about what their needs are. So this issue of master plan, you need to be flexible with a master plan so that you can accommodate the needs of the communities.
All right, thank you. Park, so those points there, the first one about, you know, the city is the future, or no, just as much emphasis on the rural areas, or both, and the importance of the bottoms-up approach in designing the right policies. Nairi's points.
Well, I think it's both. I think that you can't say that you can't stop the process of urbanization. It's part of a natural process of development, and I think that we're experiencing that as African cities. So if you work on the basis of that, you can't wish away urbanization. You've got to work with it and ensure that you're able to derive the benefits that I think there are in urbanization and in urban migration. So in many ways, I think that whilst we are addressing rural development, a lot of the choices are not always about running away from poverty. Sometimes they are, at the most basic level, lifestyle choices. It's about, I want to be in a city where I have closer proximity to this set of amenities, therefore I'm going to relocate anyway. So let's take advantage of the fact that you have people in your cities, maximize the value that people are able to contribute to their own cities, and thus be part of the development.
And is there a kind of standardized approach you can have? You're in South Africa, Patricia's in South Africa, Johannesburg, what works there will work in Cape Town?
I don't think that you can have a one size fits all. I think that you're going to have to look at local dynamics, and cities have to learn from each other.
But there are standards, aren't there, that you must all want to meet?
Well, you'd have basic density standards that you'd want to achieve. You'd want urban efficiencies to reach a particular level. You need mobility, you need a particular set of services to make your city work. But in the reality of what you are doing in your city, part of what you accept is that the dynamics in your city are different from the dynamics in another city.
Okay, thank you. And there was that question about the importance of institutions, but I think you had addressed that very well, with all respect to our questioner. Isa, your response to these final points from the floor. Can you remember them?
Yes, I do.
Good.
And,
I've said them often enough now.
Yeah, Zainab, I want to be a little bit, I don't want to say radical, but I want maybe to wear my hat as an African former mayor.
You can be as radical as you like, as long as you're brief.
Yeah, because I just feel like we're not getting it. And I'm really sorry. I want just to make two statements. One, it's absolutely necessary that we embrace and proactively, intentionally plan for urbanization. It won't just happen anyhow. We have to be very intentional about it. And I'm deeply concerned that that is not given the weight, and we seem to be a little bit scared about it.
So you think it is the future?
It is the future, and I think making it the future means, because if we don't make it the future, we're going to have mega cities and slums in form of the secondary or intermediate towns. I think what Ethiopia was telling us earlier on is, what is government planning to create incentives and plan ways of actually attracting people in their rural settings to organize themselves around urbanization across this continuum. So what I'm trying to say here, Zainab, when I look at the history of Africa's development, we have done so much on rural development. We should continue. But I would like to say I would spend 80% of my time planning to urbanize the rural part, as well as urbanizing the city.
And you answered in your earlier session very much about the importance of engaging the community right at the grassroots level. So
that is very right. But again, I think on that I want to quote this colleague here who talked about the city being like an organism. When we go to the doctor, do we debate whether the normal temperature is 37.5 or 37? Do we ever debate about the blood pressure? There are norms and standards. So I fully agree with the engagement, but if we want to have cities that are going to be transformative, there are rules and regulations. If we don't touch that squarely and say we need not less than 35% to 40% public space, then we are doomed to fail. We need to decide whether we want to graduate and finish kindergarten and sing and dance, or we want to go to the highest that we can afford. So there are things that we must do differently.
And it sounds like you think that there is a kind of standard.
I just feel like there is an inertia. Yes,
yeah,
I feel like there's an inertia. There are universal principles. Well, because we are the UN, we call them guidelines, we appeal to member states, they are voluntary, please consider them. We hold conferences, and lo and behold, we get back to a 1%, for instance, public space on this continent in the slums.
Okay,
5 to 10. So we really need to decide where do we want to go. If we want to develop, there is a cost. And I think the opportunity cost is too high for us to do it as business as usual.
Okay.
Sorry.
Final. Nice rousing point for us to end on. The final brief point then, the final question from the floor. I'll start with you. Very briefly, please, just yes or no. We've seen examples of mayors becoming presidents, Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Michelle Bachelet, I think, too, in Chile and so on. Are you going to launch your presidential campaign? Any ambitions to become a president, Mayor Sal? Sorry, not my question, it was from the floor. Blame them. It's right, nobody's listening, you're amongst friends. You've got the same name as the current president. There'll be continuity of name, if not policy. Please, yes. What are you going to say? No comment?
No comment.
Okay,
yes.
fine, no comment. Parks?
It's the easiest way out.
Is the easiest way out. You also no comment. You're the right party, though. What's the matter with you? No comment? Tricia, help me out, you?
Well,
Why
you know,
not?
I think the next person powerful next to the president is the mayor. The president even has got less powers than the mayor. It's how you use that power. So I don't want to become the president because I'm already the president in my city.
What do they call you, Your Excellency? President Patricia? There are elections in 2017 in Rwanda. Don't worry, I'm not getting controversial. Would you consider using your former status as former mayor of Kigali to launch your campaign?
Yeah, Zainab,
You said yes? Almost.
The thing is, and I'm being very candid about this, I think I benefited from the great leadership of my president, Kagame, when I was mayor. And I think he gave me the best example in the biggest support. And I, very genuinely, on a personal note, I'd vote for him if he stands. So I'm happy with him.
All right, okay. No, you are getting controversial now.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
I think, you know, we've had a long day. I'm not going to sit here pontificating and giving you my final thoughts of our day, but it's been a splendid day. We've had splendid contributions from so many people and so many excellent chairs and so many excellent questions from you, the audience. You are now released to go your various ways, but I think you will all be invited to, at 8:30, the concert, which is in Independence Square, and I guarantee it will be a night to remember. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you to my mayors here. From me, goodbye. Thank you.